At last. It's the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Hello everyone, and welcome to The Unfiltered. If you're like me and you're tired of the story the media always feeds us, then I'm very glad that you found your way into my little end of the world. So today we are going to be talking about the Idaho Four Case again, and specifically I want to focus on something that I know is very controversial, but I know it bothers not only me but many other people, and that is this whole 8-hour gap from when the attacker left 1122 King Road and when 911 was called. Now, I have seen a lot of comments online on other videos, so I know that a lot of people feel exactly the same way that I do. So it doesn't really matter whether you think Brian Koberger is guilty or innocent of this crime. It still wouldn't explain the mysterious 8-hour delay. And I'm not here to blame or shame anyone. This is purely my opinion, my thoughts, and I think that most of us can say that not calling 911 when you're in such a volatile life and death situation is extremely suspicious, and it's very unsettling. So I'm going to go back to all the texts and read them. Now, remember, after this attack, the intruder left, and Dylan Mortensen said that she started texting Bethany Funk. So just to go over, Dylan was on the second floor of the home and Bethany was on the first floor. And the house is very complicated the way it's laid out. So let me read it and we'll take it from there. There are a few other things that I think you might find very interesting. So at 4:22 to 4:24, the messages start. Dylan messages Bethany and she says, "No one is answering. And I'm really confused right now." She then sends a message to Kaylee Gonzalez. "Kaylee, what is going on?" And Bethany responds, "Yeah, dude, what the F?" Bethany then says, "Xana was wearing all black." Dylan responds, "I'm freaking out." She then says, "No, it's like a ski mask almost." Bethany, "Shut the fuck up. Actually." I don't know how those kids' messages, very, very hard to actually read messages like this. But anyway, Dylan, like he had something over his forehead and mouth. They can't even spell. Bethany, "I'm not kidding. I'm so freaked out." Bethany, "So am I." And this puzzles me with Bethany because, remember, she's on that first floor and she supposedly doesn't know. She hasn't seen the man in the ski mask. But anyway, let's go on. Then she says, Dylan says something, "My phone is going to die." And Bethany says, "Come to my room, run down here." So Dylan said that she decided to run all the way down the stairs to Bethany Funk's room, where the two of them locked themselves in. And this is very unusual because if you've ever been in that situation, and I have, the logical thing to do is to hide or stay put. I mean, you would think, given how terrifying and scary the situation was, at least for Dylan, I mean, she'd basically just seen what she said is a masked man inside of their house. So naturally, a person would expect, at the very least, the first thing that she would do is call out for help. Dial anybody, 911, the police, your parents. But she runs to Bethany's room. So supposedly the two of them are together now. Again, they have another opportunity in this terrible, scary situation to call for help. And I know that a lot of people are going to say that they were just very traumatized and that they didn't realize what was going on. But the thing is, for us as humans, we are born with this instinct. I mean, we can basically feel when something is not right. And I mean, for me, you're either scared or you're not. It's not both. You can't say in one breath that you are freaked out and then not call for help. You can't say that you don't realize what was going on. But of course, we also know that Dylan Mortensen has changed her story multiple times as to the events of what really happened on that night in that house. So let's just go back a little bit. They stay inside for about 3 hours. And during this time, there's this whole dark period of inactivity on their phones. There's no communication with anybody until around 7:30 a.m. And if you know teenagers or young adults, you'll know that this is very unusual. So then they start reaching out to friends, not family, which is also a big red flag to me, because young adults of this age normally reach out to friends when they are or they have made some kind of trouble. So these friends were then asked to come to the house. Now, there were messages that were sent to Bethany Funk's father, and phone records show that these two girls were active on Snapchat, social media, even the Indeed app, which is, to me, honestly, extremely strange. Why would you go on Indeed? Then at 10:23 a.m., Dylan and Bethany send another message to the other roommates. But, you know, even at this point, they still haven't contacted 911. And they've made this decision to lock themselves up in Bethany's room. Yet despite whatever it is, the fear, the confusion, I don't know, there was absolutely no attempt at calling for help. And in the initial stages of this story, we were always led to believe that they called, or I think it was around early morning, and then it changed to a bit later, and then we finally get the real time of the 911 call. So it's very confusing as to how the media put the whole story out. So Dylan said that she looked out of her bedroom and that she came face to face with this masked intruder that was exiting towards the glass sliding door. But now, if you have a look at this house and the whole layout of Dylan's bedroom, then it would be logical to say that Dylan would have been able to see them exiting. So most people would naturally go and look out of their back window and see who just left the house. She had kind of the perfect view to do that, to see if somebody had left out of that back glass sliding door. But the thing that I'm thinking about is that if Dylan actually went to Bethany's room, well, then she would have had to, as she mentioned herself, she would have had to have run down the stairs and past where she said that she saw Xana lying passed out on the floor. And to me, that's very disturbing, because if she had seen Xana lying on the floor, then logically, because she's her friend, you would think that she would go over and give her some help. But of course, that's not what happened. So, like I said, Dylan told law enforcement that she saw Xana passed out on the floor as she was running down the stairs. Now, either Dylan is not telling the truth or it never happened at all. And this completely changes the whole timeline. There was also an eyewitness who lived nearby, and he did an interview with law enforcement, sharing some interesting information. He said that when he walked by the house that morning at around 8:30 a.m., he noticed the back sliding glass door was wide open. But he also mentioned that the front door was open. So if Dylan came out of her room and ran down to Bethany's room at around 4:30 a.m., as we've all been told, then she would have had to have passed the open front door to get there. But if the door was still open at 8 or 9 a.m. that morning, it suggests that she wouldn't have gone down at that time. So either Dylan never went down to Bethany's room at all, or she did go down at around 4:30 a.m. and the intruder left the front door open when they exited after 4:30 a.m. So either scenario doesn't really fit with the timeline, especially considering Murphy's barking, which reportedly starts at 4:17 to 4:47 a.m. So the thing is that this whole timeline, it just really doesn't make any sense. I mean, if Dylan really went down to Bethany's room at 4:30 in the morning, then it doesn't add up. The attack was supposedly over. The white Hyundai Elantra was gone by 4:20 a.m. And somehow we're told that Dylan was brave enough to run down to the first floor bedroom, and meanwhile the front door is open. I mean, it was open when witnesses arrived later on in the morning. So if Dylan left her room at 4:30 like she said she did, then she would have had to have walked right past that open door. And if you think about it, the first thing that anybody does when they see that their front door is wide open in the middle of the night is to run and shut it. But we know that the door was not shut. And if you think about it, whoever was in that house must have been the one to have left it wide open. And Murphy, that poor dog, I mean, he finally stopped barking at 4:47 a.m. So it lines up much better if Dylan didn't go down to Bethany's room until later on, or if there was actually movement inside of that house, and that movement would have finally calmed Murphy down. Or maybe that door was left open later by somebody who was already inside of the house, maybe doing a cleanup to air the house out. Either way, it just doesn't fit her story. So it's almost impossible that anybody would leave two doors of the house wide open after seeing a masked intruder. Either Dylan is not telling the truth, or the timeline is wrong, or somebody inside of that house opened the door. Like I said, eyewitnesses confirmed this, and I've asked myself, at what point did Dylan see Xana's body on the floor? Did she even see it at all? I mean, if you put yourself in that kind of situation, it's a very dark house with very little light. And if you remember, there was that good vibe sign. There's a masked man walking around or out of the glass sliding door. And somehow none of this is believable. Every detail we're told contradicts the next one. And that's why I keep digging and examining this timeline. So I've left an email in the description, and I would really love if any of you have any input. You're welcome to send me a mail. I appreciate your thoughts and your comments, and I appreciate you watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It's absolutely free. So when you go, please go and do something nice for yourself, and I will catch you guys in the next one.